Florida man. That's right, Florida man. You think of someone who's got a shotgun, shooting it at a hurricane, or maybe even using a box fan, wrestling an alligator, or maybe going 60 miles an hour down a Dolomite back road and hitting to a barbed wire fence. Florida man. You may think of someone who is making meth in their double-wide trailer and then it blows up in a chemical explosion. Or you may be thinking about someone who calls 911 drunk so that the police can come over and pick him up and be their Uber to go to Hooters. Ladies and gentlemen, folks, these are all real stories. And one of them I actually did. But I'm not going to tell you which one. You'll just have to ask me about that later. So Florida man, you may think you know Florida man, but I challenge all of you here this evening to think again. It's easy to look at our fellow Americans from different states and have this one-dimensional view of them. You think of someone from California, you have an image of your mind of what a California person looks like, don't you? Or someone from New York that, cuts you off in traffic. Or is that New Jersey? Probably New Jersey. Don't even get me started on someone from Pennsylvania. Whoopie pie. So anyway, we're going to focus on Florida man. And I moved to Pennsylvania 4 years ago. I married a beautiful lady, my wife Jen, who's back there with me this evening. And now I call Pennsylvania home, but I'm still a Floridian. And I want us to think again, instead of this one-dimensionality of the news telling us what a Florida man is, I'm going to share a story with you about a special gentleman named Dr. Andrew Ramsey. Now, Dr. Ramsey was one of the first people. His ancestors were in Florida before all of us white people got there. His native name is Tuscaharjo, and he's from the Apalachicola Creeks. And Dr. Ramsey went to Florida State University and got his doctorate in education. Later came back to Calhoun County, to Blountstown, and that's the town in North Florida where I was born and raised. The culture was more like Georgia or Alabama. Where I lived was an hour from the state lines, more like Georgia or Alabama than Miami or Orlando. So Dr. Ramsey, after getting his doctorate, went on to teach curriculum for the Calhoun County school system. Now his family, they owned a local grocery store, and it was called Ramsey's Piggly Wiggly. And that was my first job, and I worked for his kids. And I remember Dr. Ramsey had this spirit of hospitality that I aspired to. So Thursdays were senior day at the Piggly Wiggly, and my grandparents, Monroe and Naomi Yoder, would come on Thursdays because they were good Mennonites who wanted a bargain. And so they come in, and Dr. Ramsey would be there. He's 6'2", had this beautiful shock of black hair and a warm smile. And he'd say, "Good morning, Monroe and Naomi. It's so good to see you." And my grandma was probably about here, and she'd walk over, and he would wrap her in a big bear hug. And she'd go and do the grocery shopping. And my grandpa Monroe and Andrew would go to the back corner cafe with their cups of coffee and their little styrofoam cups and share the local gossip. And he treated them well. And I think about Dr. Ramsey, and he had a foot in two worlds. You know, he was from the Apalachicola Creeks, and yet he worked within the public-facing job of teaching and education for the folks in our county. And I think for me, someone who had a dad who was ex-Amish and who had this funny-sounding last name of Stoltzfus, and who the Southerners don't know how to pronounce. They drop all the consonants and say Stoltzfus, Elam Stoltzfus. What a strange-sounding last name. And so even though I was another white person living in, Calhoun County, I still felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. And today I can be proud of my heritage. It's my past. It's where I come from. And I think for Dr. Ramsey, as I've gotten older, I see that he had this private identity that he kept true to. And I really admired his ability to land in both worlds. The other thing that I think of Dr. Ramsey is he was in my father Elam's nature documentary on the Apalachicola River. And he ends the film. He's dressed up in his beautiful blue and red and just colorful Native American clothes. And he's got this feather coming out of his head. And he leans down into the murky Apalachicola waters, and the water drips over his face. And he says these words. He says, "Bickering and fighting don't get us anywhere. It's when friends are able to come together, sit down, and talk. And that's how you get anything done." So I encourage you to think again. Don't stereotype your neighbor. Take another look. Get behind the surface. Get beneath the surface. Think again. And just sit down and have a conversation. Thank you.